From Trade to Territory is the second chapter of NCERT History Class 8. It's a long chapter, so I have divided it into 4 parts. Part 4, the final part, is about setting up new administration. By late 18th century, East India Company had transformed from a trading company into a territorial colonial power. Combined with its indirect influence on the remaining territory and the population of the country, the East India Company had virtually the whole of India under its control. Thus, the need of the hour for the East India Company was to introduce administrative reforms to effectively manage and consolidate both its political and financial power. Thus, the topics that will be discussed in detail in this video are: number 1, creation of presidencies and the post of Governor General; number 2, administrative reforms introduced in Indian judiciary; number 3, the company's army; number 4, introduction of civil service; and number 5, some important questions. For recap: the Presidencies of East India Company. The company divided the territories under its control into broad administrative units called the Presidencies. So the question is, why East India Company had divided its territories into presidencies? They did so because it allowed the company to divide its territories into manageable units with local leadership. Moreover, this also helped in managing the resources, collecting revenue, and maintaining law and order. There were 3 presidencies, namely Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay presidencies. Now, you can see in the map all the 3 presidencies, and you will realize that why Bengal presidency was the most important presidency for East India Company. Each presidency was under the command of an independent governor. The Regulating Act of 1773 created the office of Governor General of Bengal and made the presidencies of Bombay and Madras subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of Bengal. The Charter Act of 1833 changed the title of Governor General of Bengal to Governor General of India. The Governor General now became the supreme head of the colonial administration in India. Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. The judiciary. In 1772, a new system of justice was established. Warren Hastings introduced many administrative reforms in the judiciary. Under this, each district was to have a criminal court or a Faujdari Adalat. The criminal court was under Qazi and Mufti, but they worked under the supervision of the collector. Each district also had a civil court or a Diwani Adalat. The civil court was presided over by the European district collector. He was the judge. The Maulvis and the Pandits interpreted the Indian laws for him. So the question is, why the criminal court was under the Qazi and Mufti only and not Pandits? This was because the British, in their attempt to establish a new judicial system, recognized that criminal law in India was primarily based on Islamic law, and they wanted to maintain the existing system of criminal matters. In 1772, Sadar Nizamat Adalat was set up in Calcutta. It was the highest criminal appellate court in the city. The Sadar Diwani Adalat was also set up the same year. It was the highest civil appellate court in Calcutta. So what is an appellate court? An appellate court is a court that hears appeals from lower court. It reviews the decisions of lower courts to determine if there were any errors in application of law procedure. In 1774, under the Regulating Act, a Supreme Court with a Chief Justice and 3 judges was also set up in Calcutta. Now, this is the image of the Supreme Court set up in Calcutta, but here it is important to note that the Supreme Court was established to administer English laws and had jurisdiction over the British subjects. The Sadar Diwani and Nizamat Adalat functioning in Calcutta were not under the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. They administered local laws and were headed by Indian judges. In 1775, selected pundits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu laws. N.B. Halhed translated this digest into English. By 1778, a Muslim code of law was also compiled. In 1793, Bengal regulation was introduced with definite codes from the Hindu and the Muslim laws. A major problem was that the Brahman pundits gave different interpretations of local laws based on different schools of Dharmashastra. So, to bring about uniformity, in 1883, India's first law commission was set up to codify the law system. This applied to the Indians only. Company's Army. The British Army in India largely consisted of Indian soldiers called sepoys. The Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry and infantry. Cavalry dominated the army. The Mughals did not feel the need of professionally trained infantry. However, with the change in technology, requirement of cavalry in the army declined and infantry became more important. The change in technology affected the company's army because the British Empire was fighting in Burma, Afghanistan, and Egypt, where soldiers were armed with muskets and matchlocks, and the soldiers of the company's army had to keep pace with the changing military requirements. A major transformation occurred under the East India Company as it began recruiting Indian sepoys and training them as disciplined professional infantry soldiers, reshaping the military structure in India. In early 19th century, the British began to develop uniform military culture by introducing in the army European-style training, drill and discipline, but this often created problems since caste and community feelings were ignored in building a force of professional soldiers. The collector. The principal figure in an Indian district during the British rule was the collector. His main job was to collect revenue and taxes and maintain law and order in his district with the help of judges, police officers, and darogas. The collector was responsible for managing every aspect of district administration. Therefore, the role of district collector was crucial for sustaining the East India Company's governance in India. They became the primary link between the company and the local population. His office, the collectorate, became the new center of power and patronage that steadily replaced the previous holders of authority. This is the image of the Calcutta collectorate. Civil service. Lord Cornwallis is widely credited as the father of Indian civil services. Initially, the officials employed by the East India Company to manage its trade were also given the responsibility of administrative functions, but corruption and inefficiency was rampant among these officials. As the post of the collector had become the principal figure in the Indian districts, Lord Cornwallis ensured that capable and honest young men were recruited and trained for this important role, and to combat corruption and improve administrative efficiency, Lord Cornwallis introduced a well-structured and regulated system for the civil service. He introduced a merit-based system for recruitment and promotion. He also introduced strict regulations for the civil servants like banning private trade and accepting gifts. These measures helped to reduce corruption and create a more accountable and efficient cadre of officials to manage the colonial governance. Thus, the civil servants were one of the most important pillars of the British government, contributing directly to the effectiveness of the administration and ensuring its long-term stability. Some important questions for recap. Number one, what were the main reasons behind East India Company creating separate presidencies in India, and what impact did this have on local administration? Number two, what were the major features of the judicial reforms introduced by the East India Company in 1772 under Warren Hastings? Number three, how did the East India Company reorganize and modernize Indian army army during the colonial rule? Number 4, how can we say that the post of collector became extremely powerful and important for the success of the British rule in India? And number 5, what steps did Lord Cornwallis take to maintain the effectiveness and integrity of the civil servants? Thank you for watching. If you found this lesson helpful, please like, share and subscribe Indrani's History channel.